Today's podcast is with Dimitris, who is at this intersection of like endless academia and endless actually doing the work in the field. He works in projects like Rural Radicals and a Maker project, and ResMove, which is the topic of our podcast with Janine in the last episode. And he's always traveling around Europe, researching for his PhD and interviewing people at the intersection of what is one of the most fascinating things for me, where co-working spaces are a central hub in the community. So a lot of his work is with young people and youth work, and there's that intersection of youth work and remote workers and creators and independent economic agents and the local community and the local economy and stopping the brain drain, which is a favorite topic here on the Co-working Values podcast. So go to the link in the show notes, go and find that Actionism documentary link, and that's a great way of starting conversations in your co-working space, and I'll talk more about that at the end. But for now, let's get into the show. Hello folks, and welcome to today's Co-working Values podcast. And in our studio today we have Dimitris. What are you known for, Dimitris, and what would you like to be known for? And there's a lot in there you could answer with.
Yes, okay. Hello everyone. I'm Dimitris Manoukas, and I'm Greek. I live in Athens, but I travel a lot for work all over Europe actually. Thank you so much, Bernie, for the invitation. I truly appreciate it. And I've listened to previous episodes, and I really find this podcast very impactful and very informative at the same time. And I love its orientation as well. What I'm known for. Wow. Okay. So I'm PhD student. I do my PhD at the Panteion University of Social and Political Sciences in Athens. My PhD is on youth engagement and employment policies implemented or designed by collaborative workspaces in peripheral areas across Europe. We can get into more detail later if you want, but that's one of my roles. Another role is that I'm a researcher, so I do research for different European funded projects. The main one, let's say, it's an Horizon project. So I'm a research fellow at the Technical University of Milan, the Politécnico di Milano, and I'm at the Department of Architecture and Urban Studies, and I work there for an Horizon project called Remaking, and its focus is on remote work and its impact on the individual, the businesses, and the territories. There are also case studies there. And at the same time, I've worked with the European Co-working Assembly for ResMove, another European-funded project that focuses on the integration of refugees and migrants through co-working spaces. And I collaborate with other startup initiatives like Rural Radicals, where I do where I do project management, actually. We work with creative spaces in rural and suburban areas, and we help them develop. So I have many roles, but they all move around co-working, creative industries, social research, if that helps.
There's and when do you sleep? I know what you mean, because people have said to me like, "Oh, you're always doing all this stuff," but it always comes back to like something to do with co-working and something to do with communication. But when you look at it from the outside, it looks like a kaleidoscope at its best. What I'm really interested in with you is this intersection of like youth and you used a different word. It was like not rural, but like youth and co-working spaces and rural things. And there's the projects that a lot of listeners will know, that there's Urban MBA, which we're a big fan of in London, and also Faceworks. Faceworks is a co-working space in Lewisham that is really focused on dealing with dealing with, supporting refugees, mainly from Ukraine, Afghanistan, and Iran, coming to London to not, give them blankets, but like set them up so they work in the co-working space, they build community, they learn how to be part of London and how to connect with each other. And what has emerged from that is how young people get jobs. And that's always been a big agenda for Urban MBA. And I'm going to that much detail because a lot of what you say, Dimitris, is about this other class of people, which are creators and freelancers and remote workers. And there's this kind of intersection of those people who I like to call independent economic agents. And the whole, even before AI, the whole job market has changed. That I don't know many people who have a job for life like our parents' generation. And like, I'm going to stop talking now. What is going on with that? Because can you see all the threads that are hanging out in the air, and can you just pick one and go with it?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Of course, I can. I completely understand. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for also talking about initiatives like FaceWorks, because this is exactly the kind of spaces that I'm interested in. But let's say, okay. First of all, I can comment a bit on the word peripheral. That's the word I used. Because peripheral areas can also be closer to
That's
cities.
the word.
Yes, peripheral areas can be closer to cities or inside a city. It's like let's say a left behind suburb, uh, or an old warehouse area that has been abandoned or something. So these are the type of peripheral areas. One type of peripheral areas. Other types are also like typical rural areas as well. So these areas, let's say, they face issues like let's say left behindedness, as it's called, on every level, like social, economic, security issues, everything you can think of. And one of the main challenges for these areas is brain drain. It's also something very typical in many countries, like in areas of countries like Spain, like the middle of Spain, for example, which is called empty Spain, also empty France. These are like terms that you might run into. Brain drain is one of the most serious issues for such areas. And what I do research on is how co-working spaces can tackle this issue. And I interviewed many young people, beneficiaries of such initiatives, to initiatives to boost employment in the community, or engagement in the community. I consider engagement as an umbrella term, and employment is like one of its direct or indirect effects. Engagement is very important. Getting out of the house, getting out of the of your, let's say, zone of isolation or something. So that brings also, one way or another, employment possibilities and civil society engagement as well. Yeah.
So building your network is one of the hardest things I think young people need to do. And
yes,
the opportunities to build your network are very, very small nowadays.
Yes, exactly.
And how can young people do that? Is it just going to a co-working space?
So yes, I think that networking brings also, serendipity. It's a very common brand, almost like a branding term for co-working. But networking, connectivity, as it's called, is like in the core of brain gain, or as we say, which is the opposite of brain drain. So co-working spaces are, usually very um, innovative places or artistic places or places that attract young people. And when there is such a place in a peripheral area, it's usually a place that a young person will visit one way or another. I mean, it depends on what kind of events they do and what their branding is. But if it's one of these, community-led co-working spaces, community hubs, young people will definitely pass by. And also, instead of trying to attract them, you can also reach out to them. You can walk around the neighborhood because we're talking about small communities, so you kind of know each other. You can reach out to them. You can ask them you can do some kind of customer research and or like visitor research, let's say, and ask them what kind of events you would like to see. And by bringing them into the space with other like-minded young people and also some professionals, policymakers, depends on the event, they this creates some kind of informal um, uh, networks, informal vibes that get them together, and they start talking one way or another. They get to meet people, they get to learn from others' experiences, and they start to visit the space more and more often. And then comes perhaps a more institutionalized, let's say, a more organized initiative about specifically youth employment, like workshops, setting your own business, learning how to work remotely, which is also super important when it comes to to youth retention. If you want someone to live in their area, you have to give them also this option. So yeah, this is a way to do some. This is a way to harvest the advantages of networking.
So something like here in Vigo, I know, or Galicia, where I live nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
there is a huge amount of money that basically people move from young people move from Vigo to Barcelona and Madrid and Berlin, and they
Mm-hmm.
take their I'm going to say wealth, but there's a better word, but there's a lot of money that is taken from this or moved from Galicia. And one of my never-ending things, just in general, is this, which is in line with your ideas, is that co-working spaces are already forming a place in the local neighborhood where people can stay and they can live in the town they grew up in, which is more attractive than it may sound, and keep their wealth in that town. So, what have you? I, I, I feel this is a conversation you've been part of for a very long time, because there's that brain drain thing. Like nowadays, there's even less reason to move from, Vigo to Madrid because you can do it all online. Now, is it
Mm-hmm.
just a cultural shift that needs to happen, or is it people need to do more to keep people in the town, or is it could be all of these? A co-working space needs to articulate its purpose better. That was a very long question. Sorry.
Yeah. No, but I completely understand the many aspects of this question. So, sometimes, okay, let's be honest here. Peripheral areas and such, let's say, such communities can be a bit, boring for young people. They can lack opportunities that young people usually want. Okay, so I completely understand that. I've been living in towns and cities most of my life, to be honest. But from my experience, you digital skills, digital opportunities can be a great and amazing way to keep the youth in the area, and digital work in general. knowledge work as well, like being a researcher. Most of these jobs are online nowadays. So this needs to be part of a top-down / bottom-up kind of collaborative policy that becomes that's organized. It has to have an impact. It doesn't have to be. It must not be sporadic or occasional. It has to be very. It has to have like a scope. So I understand that many young people will leave at least for a short while to study in a bigger city. That makes absolute sense. But also another issue nowadays is the cost of living crisis. So in many big cities, this is a factor that discourages young people from staying longer. And this also applies to creative workers. We've seen a great urban exodus during the pandemic years. For example, many people left the cities, and some of these people stayed in rural areas or in the countryside or in small villages. There are examples of that, for example. So yeah, there are. Yeah, on one hand, we have digital opportunities. On the other hand, we have the cost of living crisis. And I think that this mix of factors can actually create a context that's beneficial for youth retention to succeed, or for brain gain policies to succeed. And an important factor, these can all connect in your local co-working space or in your local hub, for example. These places can be the mediators that bring all the threads together. They have the space, they have the people who work in them, and they are knowledgeable. And actually, there has been it's a trend nowadays for old community centers and old youth centers to rebrand themselves as hubs. This is usually the case in Ireland and the UK. You see that many old institutions like community centers adopt co-working practices and rebrand themselves. And I'm mainly talking. I'm talking for all kinds of areas, but this happens also in rural and peripheral areas.
I think that word hub is something you really like. Is it? Have you got this like ideal hub vision in your head that you carry around?
Okay, yes, that's a great question. Yeah. Well, my ideal hub is like, let's say, I don't really. I have some hubs and some collaborative spaces that I visited that I like, really love, and I would definitely spend years there. I might do that in the future. I can give you some examples, but let's say that my ideal hub in my head, it's like a mosaic of different characteristics that I observed in other places, and if you bring them all together, they create this ideal structure in my head. It's not that the places are not ideal or good enough, of course. It's just that I really like keeping the good aspects from each space. And yeah, maybe this place that I have in my head is impossible to exist. I completely get that. That's why I'm so fond of discovering such places. So overall, my ideal hub is like a part of is like a mixture of different characteristics, like being community led, focusing on solidarity and circular economy, being a promoter of policy making, bottom up policy making, but also contact with the policymakers themselves find the perfect middle road that connects bottom-up needs with top-down expectations. It's a safe space for all kinds of social groups. It's also a creative space, definitely. It's a space where you can be free. It's a space where you can work, where you can hang out, where you don't need to worry about the cost of living one way or another. I mean, you don't have to worry about the cost of living, at least while you are in the space. It's a place where people listen to you. I think that's very important. It's very important when people give you value for what you are and what you do. It's really nice to in Greek we say to listen to a good word, to a nice word, every day when you go there.
That idea of I've visited so many co-working spaces over the years, and there's this little picture that keeps reshaping itself in my head. For a long time, I'd walk around and see a building, and I think a lot of people in co-working do this. They see a building and they say that would make a good co-working space, and it doesn't happen so much anymore. But we used to be traveling, and there's a group of us that would just share pictures of buildings in idyllic places, even in towns and cities and villages where we thought that would be a good co-working space. Whether it would ever actually work or not is another question, but it was a fun game. Dimitri, where's the best place online to track you and your projects and your work? And we'll put links to all of those in the show notes so people can keep track of ResMove and Rural Radicals and what else are you up to?
Oh, great. Thank you for that. Well, I would say LinkedIn, Dimitris Manoukas is my LinkedIn. So I think that I post most of the projects I'm involved in and most of my deliverables or my activities there. Also, the Rural Radicals website, ruralradicals.com, and the Remaking project website as well. That's called Remaking. I can send you the link. I forget the project, the website now, and also the ResMove project. If you Google all these things, you can find them. But I can also send you links to the websites. But let's say mainly my LinkedIn has everything. You can find all these links there.
That's great. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time and attention today. If you go to the show notes, we are so proud of the show notes. There's links to everybody. And if you want to go back to previous episodes, you can see they're all interlinked. This is all held on Substack, and that's where the best show notes are. We have the LinkedIn co-working group where we post these and other events and other podcasts in there. And the conversation is getting better and better and better, and you're all getting a bit more engaged and brave to comment on each other's posts. So that's a great connection point. Like we talked about in this episode, there's so many little things happening around the world where people are building communities. They're getting into the citizenship story and out of the consumer story and building those local. This is already happening. I'm going to start making it sound like it's a new idea. There's so many very strong communities around the world, and like it says in the citizenship work is find the others. And the last thing is one of the best things you can do for your local community is host a screening of the Actionism film. We'll put a link to that in the show notes. And we have found that people who are like, I'm not really sure how to talk about this, what can I do in my co-working space that is not a business course or something? You host a screening of this 25-minute documentary about collective action and then sit around and talk about it. And it's a great thing to talk about in your email newsletters. It's a great way of kickstarting your community if you kind of lost your way in what you're about or what to email people. And just all over all over Europe, people are putting this film on and having discussions about citizenship and community. Anyway, that's a very long outro for me. Wherever you are in the world, be careful out there. It is a jungle.